7 no trucks. You hear me, Mike? 7 no trucks.
According to my clock,
I don't want to,
You have an ace.
I don't want to be your partner.
And you
we'll
have
go
an
ahead
ace.
and go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have a quorum present. It's also, one, so I think we're clear to go. First order of business will be the approval of minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of November 14th, which hopefully everyone's had a chance to review at this point.
I move we approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to financial reports, Tom Gardner.
All right, if you look under the financial statements, and on the third, if you go over to the third page, it's numbered page 10 down at the bottom. If you remember, we reported at the last meeting that we had not made some budget adjustments. Those adjustments have been made, and you can see under net ordinary income it has come back, and for the income, it's back to normal now. If you move over 2 pages to page 12, that gives us July through November, and you can see that we still are operating well within the budget. And Mr. Chairman, there's really not anything unusual about the financial sheets, the financial information, other than those adjustments were made.
Chairman, with the form of motion to accept the financial report as presented.
We have a motion and a second on the financials as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Tom. Yeah, it does look like a fairly plain one.
Yeah, it's very clean look.
We're back to our agenda. Next item are committee reports. Any activity from the investment committee over the month?
Yes, we had one CD that actually matured this month, not in this business, and it was bid out, and the winning bidder was still a very, very low interest rate, but it was bid out nonetheless, 0.0035, I think that's what it was. And we have 2 more due this month, so they'll be bid out as well.
I know there's been a meeting of the Long Range Planning Committee since our last gathering. Dave?
Yes, Mr. Chair. You know, the city of Griffin has requested by letter that the Development Authority respond to how and when we're going to pay the $5 million for the sewer capacity for the lakes at Green Valley. The Long Range Planning Committee met yesterday to discuss the matter. The original agreement was to pay $5 million for 500,000 gallons of sewer capacity for the lakes, and that the money would come from out of the pay-as-you-go 2008 SPLOST allocated to the Griffin Farm Development Authority. The SPLOST has been running about 10% behind the original projection, so the entire funding is not there for our lakes project. The 10% reduction would yield $4.5 million due to the city. Our other projects for the lake from that fund are likewise down 10%. The Griffin Farm Development Authority respectfully requests that our capacity amount should be equal to the city of Griffin's published rate of approximately $8.50 per gallon, which would yield 529,412 gallons of capacity for the lake. Along with the Griffin Farm Development Authority Board to pay the city $2 million now, and then a negotiated amount per acre for each site sold within the lake. This would continue until the $2.5 million balance is paid. If there is any unused capacity at the end of the final payment, then the city of Griffin would credit that amount against future capacity needs of the Griffin Farm Development Authority that fall within the Potato Creek Basin. We also recommend that the Griffin Farm Development Authority meet with the city to work out final details.
work of the long-range planning committee and have that brought to the full board in the form of a motion and a vote. And then the next step would be, assuming that the motion passed, then some representatives, most likely David and I, then would sit down with the city folks and kind of talk through what we proposed here. So,
May I ask a question,
Uh-huh.
please? How did it read in the SPOS? Did the SPOS, Jerry, I can't, thank you. The SPOS passed on the fact that the city would get $5 million for sewer upgrades to the Lakes at Green Valley. Have you stayed within the budget for the Lakes at Green Valley, or have you spent excess other dollars for the Lakes at Green Valley that perhaps were not just in buying the property? I'm not sure, but I think, isn't SPOS money supposed to be spent according to how the people voted for it? And I think that in having the city be part of it, we were promised $5 million in order to expand the sewer. Now, and I don't know about whether we talked about rates or anything like that, David. I'm not sure that this board would know the intricate details as far as putting forth a recommendation.
I think those are wonderful questions that we'll be, happy to discuss. I would ask the reciprocal question of the city though, and that is, are there not projects that were on the SPOS that the city will not be able to do under pay-as-you-go because collections were less than what was projected?
Well, what other project did we have on this SPOS, the 2008 SPOS, that we've not done or that we've cut back on?
Well, we've done everything we have. The reason that we're in a good position on the SPOS is just because under the Federal Highway Administration, you have to deal with historical, it's called chip out, and we've had to knock a couple of our intersections out due to the fact that they won't, there's some significant historical value to a couple intersections where we can't actually tear the houses down because of that activity. We've done basically everything in the SPOS to this point that we said. Now we're short 8%, so that means we'll probably end up cutting about 8% off the LCI when it's all said and done. Depending on what that cost, we don't have a bid price on the LCI project, so I can't really address it. But we've completed our paving in budget, we've completed our sidewalks in budget, we've completed the bridge in budget, the airport road is in budget. There will probably be a couple bridges that we probably won't do. We built an additional bridge, Maple Drive Bridge with SPOS funds, and we've matched the LMIG money for resurfacing, so I can give you a counting of that when we all sit down and talk about it.
Right.
I mean,
May
clear-
I make a suggestion
Sure.
that we don't, this board doesn't vote until we have a clear picture of how the SPOS money was spent and whether you have to adhere to the fact that there was a promise, and I don't know about the pay-as-you-go, the $5 million for the sewer. I think that that's one reason the city, it was a countywide project. City, of course, benefits, but we also pay double for it, not quite double, but we are, I would like to see us see if we cannot fulfill the $5 million if possible, and by sitting down and talking,
Well,
and
and that's
seeing
all
where you
we're,
are.
that's all we're
That's what we're getting, we want to get to
So
that
you're
point.
not asking for anything that you suggested in this
Oh,
motion?
no,
no, we're asking that we be authorized to sit down and talk with Brant and Kenny within this framework.
All right,
We've got
then
really,
I will withdraw any objection I
We've got-
have if it's that, and you're not talking
sure,
about.
no, we've got three issues that we're trying to address. One is the fact that SPOS is coming in somewhat less than what was originally projected. The second is that we have remaining infrastructure that still has to be installed at the Lake Secret Valley as lots are sold, and the impact of that is very, this will sound redundant, very varied, depending upon which site is the first one that's sold. In other words, there's a certain amount of infrastructure and utilities to some sites already where there's very little additional cost associated, but there are certain lots that are the furthest flung from those utilities and infrastructure that the cost is fairly punitive. So we're trying to make sure that we don't run out of, that we don't end up having a prospect in hand and not have the money on hand to
Right.
bring,
And
to
you
deliver
said-
that site.
I understand. I know that we authorized $12 million to buy property. And I don't know however much in the SPOS was there for the development of the park, other than the purchase of the land. And I don't know if the development of the park was included in the purchase of the land or not. So as long as y'all are gonna sit down with our
ma'am.
public works and our city manager, that's fine with me. I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure. It is.
I have something that's time sensitive, Chuck, and that is, we've been in touch with GFA, and we have a deadline to meet if we're gonna do this project in this cycle or not.
What is that?
I have to have the loan information to them by the probably January the 4th at the very latest. I need to have the loan wrapped up by before the 31st in order to be able to move forward. If we don't meet that cycle, then we'll be pushed off probably 6 months. So
We can certainly meet that as far as having the discussions. I will say, if you wanna kind of be framing your thought process with regard to that loan, I can tell you, we sat down and did some cash flow type work yesterday with regard to the remaining work to be done in the park and other issues, and I can almost say with certainty, as of this point in time, the most we would be able to release from pay-as-you-go is $2 million. So it's, regardless of what the final number is and when that final number is satisfied, I would be
it takes
thinking
us 2
about.
years to build a project.
Yeah.
Okay, we wouldn't start construction until, probably at the earliest, the end of the second quarter, or more likely start the first of the third quarter next year. The way these loans work, for your information, is the payback doesn't start until, the construction is over. When you look at CRS, Clean Water and Drinking Water Fund money, so there's some room to work. The issue is whether we're bankrolling a loan, 3-point or whatever. Right now, when the project started 6 years ago, it was 18, now it's 14.5. All right, so the dollars have changed, but we can talk about that at the meeting. But at the end of the day, we need to know whether to tell because I've already been in touch with GFA on 2 other projects. And if we gotta push this project off, we just need to tell them, because they're basically have a placeholder for us for the money.
Dr. Kevin, if you all would like, before this board is concerned, and the committee, Mr. Copeland, the chairman, and David and myself, with the long-range plan, we will make ourselves available as soon as you all, meaning the city, Mr. Smith, is ready. If that's next week, just give us a date and a time frame that everybody can make it. So hopefully this way you don't have to push back in your schedule on your timeline as to when you would like to send out a bid or whatever bid process you gotta go through. So we don't see a reason why you have to push it out. We understand the holidays are coming in, but I think right now the ball is in your court as to when you all want, how quickly you want to expedite the matter. We're ready.
We'll get a copy of your recommendation. Listening to it, I was a little slow in trying to keep up with the process and exactly.
But you'll get as I said, you'll get a written response basically stating what I said.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So make sure you get that, and that'll give you a chance to kind of look it over prior to the meeting, so you have your points of concern when we do meet, so we can hammer all of that out, and I feel we're gonna come to an equitable conclusion that's gonna benefit everybody.
So,
That's
you've got a motion, did we get a second on that, with regard to the authorizing?
Yeah, and the motion is to meet with the city and to go over the parameters of the payout, the pay-as-you-go, and to come up with an equitable plan. So I'll second that.
Got a motion and second on that? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
It's hard to see sometimes.
Thank you, Dave. It was an interesting, long-range planning committee, I can tell you. There was a lot of math, floating around that room. Industrial Park Committee,
A report for Water
all right, and Transportation.
No.
David, that gets us to you. All right.
few FYI items. On the University Food Technology Center, when we took a trip to Rutgers at Food Innovation Center, one of the people we met with was a lady by the name of Donna Schaffner, who actually is a graduate of the University of Georgia Food Science Department in Athens. She came down recently, this week, and gave last week, I can't remember the date now, and gave a presentation here at the University of Georgia campus on some things they're doing up at Rutgers, some things that perhaps we should be doing here. She's proving to be a really great resource as the center moves forward. On the lakes at Green Valley, the only thing to report, we're still having issues with people really wanting to get onto the property. We've even had some folks cutting the chains that lock the gates. And so we've come up with a plan we hope will keep that down a little bit. And so they will, as soon as we get the first project in there, of course, all the gates will come down, because it will become actually a Spalding County road at that point. The Sheriff's Department can actually keep an eye on it. We did a bond resolution last month for one of our projects for the NACOM building. And as part of that, that was moving along. And as part of that, we would like to apply for an EIP grant, federal grant, to help improve, put in a new lift station, to take the affluent to Shoal Creek Basin, away from the other basin. There'll be no cost involved with that, but it would provide about $500,000 for the city to actually come in and upgrade their facilities. So just like the board to vote on that today for us to apply on behalf of the city of Griffin for an EIP grant up to $500,000.
And that's subject to final letter of intent and so forth with the Prospect for the NACOM building, right?
Prospect actually has to create a number of jobs. They are meeting that threshold to do that, and the Prospect will also have to guarantee that they'll do that, or they have to pay it back.
So this is subject to finalizing the Prospect for the NACOM building, then authorizing to proceed with application of an EIP grant of $500,000 for the installation of a lift station to divert sewer from there to the Shoal Creek Basin. We have
Chairman, a motion to approve.
a motion on that. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's your $500,000 difference.
But we
Four
have
and a
to
half
pay
to five. Pardon?
It's something we'll end up paying, isn't it? We'll get a grant, but I'm sure there'll be some strings with that, but I think,
No, I
we
think
need
that one
this.
just shows up in your checking account.
good.
Another one of our projects we talked about for the lakes at Green Valley, one of our international projects. Their CEO visited, if you recall, at the end of last month's board meeting. They visited right after that. Had a very good meeting. They hope to make a decision probably by February. And first time we've ever done this, just pointing it out, we had to ship 10 gallons of our water out of one of the fire hydrants out at the lakes to Japan. So we had to find containers to ship the water, and we found some containers and got them all shipped off. So the first time we've ever shipped off 10 gallons of water, and FedEx hopefully will get it there in a few, 2 or 3 days. They're going to test it in their process, even though they have to pre-treat it anyway, and Georgia Tech has agreed to assist in that matter, but nonetheless, 10 gallons are on their way to Japan. We also approved bond documents at last month's meeting for a Made in America project in an amount of $3 million. Those bonds will close, that's an equipment bond issue. They'll close December 19th, which will be next week. We'll get a small fee out of that bond issue. And two more things. One, I attended the Southeast United States Japan Conference this past month as a representative, or a delegate actually, from the state of Georgia. I attend those conferences with the governor's office when they're in the U.S. They alternate every year between the United States and Japan, and I try to make the ones that happen to be in the United States. And the last thing is we have another new project for the lakes. It's another international project, and this one is a food manufacturer, which is a good thing. And that concludes my reports, unless you have any questions.
All right, any old business to come before us? Any new business? Bonnie, let's start with the report from the chamber.
Well, thank you. Today will be the last meeting of the chamber for the year, so we are winding things down. We had our Eggs and Issues program last Thursday with Representatives John Yates and David Knight, and held it out at so impressive. I think it turned out to be a pretty good event. Had a room full of folks, so that was good. Christmas parade, of course, is over. Came too soon. But anyhow, it was very nice, and appreciate the cooperation from everybody from the city, the police department, the street department, we couldn't do it without them. So our annual dinner will be January the 16th. We look forward to having everybody there, and that does it for us. Today's Jerry's last meeting. Thank him for getting up early on mornings when he has to work late at night. But thank you.
Yep, that's it.
And for those of you who missed the parade, it was a wonderful parade. I missed it last year, participated this year only by walking the streets and handing out candy instead of riding in a golf cart doing it. Mary and I, Saturday afternoon, packaged 200 bags of candy to give out to the kids. And we started at 5 o'clock down at the beginning of the parade because people started lining up that early. And wherever we saw a group of kids, we stopped. And the police were very nice to let us do this. And it was fun. It was really a lot of fun.
Good, good. I was out of town, but I know my family came down for it, and they said it was very nice.
We're making it a candy-free event as far as people throw it, and we've gotten a lot of criticism, but people don't understand the liability with throwing it and they letting their children run out and grab it in the middle of the street. And so it is in the city ordinance that you are not allowed to throw things from the moving vehicle.
And no one did that I saw. And but nevertheless, the afternoon before that, the city delivered me 4 or 5 gallon containers of candy left over from the council 4th of July parade. Well, you know, you can't let that go to waste. And so to stay in the guidelines.
They can't go to waste.
Those kids love
Not
it.
even stale can.
Hey, and it wasn't still. But you know what they like better than anything I discovered? Skittles.
Oh, yeah. Skittles are big.
Yeah, and what we did was we each took, now Harry's hand were bigger than mine, so we lined them up and took a handful out of each one to put in the thing. We had bubble gum, we had Skittles, we had Snickers and Hershey's and all those good things. And it was a lot of fun. It truly
And like you
was.
found a way of getting around and throwing it out, walking next to them.
I just walked to them and gave it to them, yes. And I said, this is from the city of Griffin. Merry Christmas. And if you throw the paper bag down, they'll impeach me.
I was afraid you were gonna tell me the city delivered to you on Monday a bag full of Tootsie Roll wrappers.
No, I didn't see any paper bags the next day on the
Well,
street.
good. Kenny, you have a report from the city?
Just quickly, we had our only December meeting on Tuesday, pretty uneventful. We'll meet again on January the 14th. That will be our annual board appointments. I didn't bring my list as to how this board might be affected, but I'm sure you guys know anyway. But we'll be advertising whatever vacancies that we have coming up between now and the first of the year, and get ready to make those appointments at first meeting in January.
Thank you, Kenny. William?
Yes, sir. County Commissioners meet Monday night, 6 o'clock. We actually have a zoning meeting at 5 o'clock, and the regular meeting at 6 o'clock. That is our last meeting for the year. County offices will be closed December 24, 25, and January 1st. The recycling center will be open, yes, let's see. That was a big deal at Thanksgiving, and we're not gonna have a problem at Christmas. We had already talked about Christmas. But it will be open the day after Christmas. It's normally closed that day. But we are gonna be open the day after Christmas, so I want you to know that. Our first meeting is January 6th. We will also be doing appointments at that time. And I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Kenny, I'm sure you'll find this when you get back to your offices, but I believe it's Mr. McDaniel's, is the city appointment that's, up.
Right, and we are so appreciative of him taking the interim appointment, and if he would like to continue, we would like to know so that we can reappoint you.
And Johnny, while you're thinking about your future, you're the county appointee that comes up on that same schedule. Yes, but same here. I can say the same here. We'd love to have Billy back. That's what his wish is. Anything else to come before us? Before, Gary, I'm glad that Bonnie reminded me that this would be the last time we'd have you here. It's always, I tell you, the chamber representative of this board has always been very diligent in their participation, and we've been very fortunate to have quality folks come over from the chamber to serve on this board, and you lived up to that legacy. And,
I appreciate that. It's been interesting. Yes, it has, and very educational too.
and do we know the incoming chairman?
Fred Rudnick.
Fred Rudnick. So,
He is on vacation this week, or I'm sure he would have been here, because he's been attending the last few
gotcha.
months.
So we'll have Fred in that seat come January. Great. Well, if there's no other business to come before us, I'll entertain a motion. We adjourn. Have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
How did your meeting go, Tree?